Hi there, welcome back. This is Softcore Detachment, the podcast for people who are done starting over. If you're new here, hi there, I'm Catalina, a strength coach and nutrition educator, and this show is about building a strong body, a regulated nervous system, and a plan that doesn't fall apart every time life throws a curveball at you. Now, if you might remember, in season one, we had a wonderful guest named Ms. Chloe, who talked about an innate sense of self love and self worth. But that begged the question, what happens if you don't have that? And we got to talking about building self love and self worth brick by brick. Now, this happened in an inner circle meeting with my dear sweet friend, Nigelin, who is going to be joining us today. Thank you so much, Nige.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody.
Excellent. So, Nige begged the question during one of our meetings, what happens if you are not born with that sense of self love and self worth, and it's something that you had to practice and build along the way? As that episode points out, it assumes that self love exists somewhere inside of you. And Nige and I had the discussion of what if it doesn't? It assumes that you grew up with safety, softness, and modeling. And for some people, that was not the case. So, Nige, I'm going to let you take it away. As someone who had to build self love, what did that look like for you?
Gosh, it's definitely been a journey. And I have to say for everybody listening, first and foremost, if you struggle with self-love, there's nothing wrong with you. It's, conditioning, survival skills, coping mechanisms that you
Mhm.
developed early on to survive, and it's okay. And we can change it with small steps, practices with self-care, self-love. You're not alone at all. It is something that you can develop and build for yourself. There's hope.
Oh, that is so important and so much beautiful grace given because I think that there is a lot of pressure on people to just have that kind of sense of self worth all the time, even on your bad days, even on your days when you might feel shame or regret about what you've done or who you are or where you've been. And so giving yourself that grace is a beautiful way to start this episode. Very well said.
Thank you. Yeah, and shout out to Chloe. I loved the segment. I loved what she had to say. She was inspiring with just that audacious self-love, and I it's exciting to me to see that for her, and she gave great advice. And so today we're just digging in a little bit more.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And I think this lends itself perfectly to that quote that I think we've all heard. Sometimes self love whispers and sometimes it roars. And I think even people who have had to build their self love have moments like that where it whispers at them, and sometimes they feel it very deeply. And the same is true for other folks who have it innately. Sometimes it might feel more quiet on some of those just quiet days. And sometimes, like Miss Chloe, it roars loudly and audaciously and beautifully.
Absolutely. I agree.
Fabulous. Well, I'd like to start our show with the content of that quote that we talked about in one of our inner circle meetings. And that was the percentage quote. Life is what happens
Ah,
to you and then how you respond. So, why don't you dig into that quote for us?
yeah, it's a great quote about attitude
Mm.
from Charles Swindoll. And it's much longer, but the punchline is life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you react. It's all about our attitude is what we can control. And the first time I heard that was when I started therapy after some tough times and realizing something's got to give, something needs to change. But the first time that I heard that, it was like a punch in the face. Like it
I bet.
almost almost like you almost feel like you were almost wrong for feeling the way that you felt for what had
Hmm.
happened, even though it wasn't in your control. Maybe it was something done to you, whatever hardship, hang up, pain, heartbreak that happened to you that shifted you at your core. It almost felt like it took it all away. Like, oh, well, it was how I internalized it. That's the problem. And that's not what that quote means. It's an invitation. It's an invitation for a different perspective where you can choose to have those moments define you and go, well, that's just, well, this is who I am and it's not my fault. And no, it's not your fault. But you do have choices. You can change. You can transmute all of that pain into something amazing and beautiful and heal and love yourself and therefore also love others better.
Hmm. Beautifully said. And I don't want this to come off incorrectly, but I think that in the work that I did with survivors of sexual assault, it was really important to use the word survivor and not victim. And I think that lends itself perfectly here. It's the difference between a victim of your circumstances and a survivor of your circumstances. And
Exactly.
so, of course, horrible things happen. You can't oftentimes stop that or prevent it. But what happens afterwards and how you move forward, that is up to you. And you do have agency and you have control. It doesn't mean that you won't have bad days. It doesn't mean you won't spiral. But, the amount of control that you have with therapy, with your support systems, and with controlling a certain amount of your emotional responses, that is up to you.
Absolutely. And I even would invite folks to take it further. I mean, be warriors. Take your power back.
Be warriors. Ooh, that's good. That gave me chills. So take it past survivor and go forward into the warrior as well.
Heck yeah. Let this be your year.
Beautiful. I love it. Okay, okay, so that's a great way to start this segment. Let's take it a step further into the learned skill aspect side of things. So that's the goal, is going from victim to survivor to warrior of your circumstances. Now let's think of it as a practice, as skill sets. How do we do this?
Oh, there's several things and I have some smaller practical steps that we can take, but something that was very helpful for me and that others may find is just a slight perspective shift. Um, for me, I can struggle with taking care of myself, taking care of my
Hmm.
needs.
Mm-hmm.
I think many of us can relate to being spouses, caregivers, mothers, and taking care of everybody, and we abandon ourselves. We break our promises to ourselves. And we can be so reliable to everybody else and move mountains and not show up for ourselves. So it starts there. But how do you do that when you're terrible at it? And for me, it was thinking about really who am I becoming? What do I imagine for my future self? She's my I'm thinking about my 80-year-old self.
Hmm.
She has to inherit all of my choices, habits, decisions, my avoidance, my healing, all of it. And she deserves to inherit more than my inner chaos. So everything is about her, mind, body, and spirit. All of the choices that I make today, if I think about her, she's counting on me. And so then I just naturally am more reliable. It happens more organically, and the choices don't become so hard when I feel that I have to answer to her.
I love that. See, I use that framing a lot in personal training. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, a lot of the work that we do with folks in their 40s, 50s, and 60s, I love framing about how this is going to affect your future, your autonomy, and your capabilities for independence as we age. That's a huge talking point. But when you think about it as well for your spirituality, your integrity, and will that future self of yours look back and be proud of the choices you made? Or will they carry around shame and regret? That is So beautifully stated. I love that. The physical aspect has such real consequences, between
Yes,
disease and physical capabilities. We can see that. It's harder to see those other consequences, those wounds we carry on the inside, but they're just as real.
absolutely. No, and so that's been so helpful to hold me more accountable and put things into practice.
Beautiful. I love that. And as you said, I think that resonates more with people who are caregivers. And that role typically goes toward women, being mothers and daughters. But it's true for men as well. I think that there are some beautifully caring men who fill that role and who are very emotionally in tune with other people and typically put other people's needs before their own. And so, in general, if you find yourself putting yourself on the back burner, keep in mind you have to take care of yourself as well, especially if you're going to be of service to other people. Very well said. Now, one of the things that we talked about as we were scripting out this episode and thinking about what are the aspects holding us back from developing that sense of self worth and self love was fear. And
Mhm.
we got into this idea of, fear being a protective force, of course, coming from this primal sense of safety and fear keeping us safe from certain things, but it can be maladaptive as well. And it's not the enemy, and it wants us to be safe. And oftentimes that means staying the same. So let's talk a little bit about the metaphor that you used that was just so beautifully stated.
Would you like to remind me of that?
Oh, no problem. I got you. I got you. It was by Elizabeth Gilbert
Thank you.
and
Okay.
the car.
Okay. Thank you for that, because who I draw a blank. So yeah, fear. Fear is really something that holds us back so much. You name it, it's it. Fear of abandonment, rejection, fear of failure, fear of we could just go on and on and on just with naming fears. And
Hmm.
in Big Magic, which is the book by Elizabeth Gilbert, also the author of Eat, Pray, Love, she writes this letter to fear, and she's talking about how she's going on a road trip and all these various versions of ourselves, our different fears, our different hangups, our creativity, our positivity. We're all going on this road trip together, right? All those versions of us are all in the car. And I won't read the whole thing, but where it's important is she specifically kind of has that getting in the car, I'm going to have the come to Jesus talk with you fear. And she says, I recognize and respect that you are part of this family, and I will never exclude you from our activities. But still, your suggestions will never be followed. You're allowed to have a seat, you're allowed to have a voice, but you are not allowed to have a vote. You're not allowed to touch the road maps. You're not allowed to suggest detours. You're not allowed to fiddle with the temperature. Dude, you're not even allowed to touch the radio. But above all else, my dear old familiar friend, you are
Mm,
absolutely never, ever to drive. And I think that's so important is we have to remember who is driving our lives. We all have it. And it's okay. Fear serves a purpose. Fear isn't inherently bad. It's a warning system. But it's when we allow fear to take control is where we hold ourselves back. And that's where we get ourselves into trouble, where we can, our old coping mechanisms inadvertently become our weapons that hurt ourselves, that hurt others that we love. Fear is a tool. That's all it is. It's just a tool. It shouldn't be driving.
I love it. Very well stated. And she presents it in such a digestible way as well. That metaphor is very accessible, I think. It
Oh,
reminds
yeah.
me of one of my mantras that I try to tell myself when I'm deep in an anxiety mode is my anxiety is a lying bitch. And
Yes.
you should not listen to her. Just because she has a voice doesn't mean you have to listen to her. And if you let her drive, she's going to take you to some pretty crappy places, literally and figuratively.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, what I like about this idea of including fear and not eliminating it is it's like setting a boundary around fear. You can acknowledge it, you can listen to what it has to say, but you need to set some boundaries around it, because otherwise, if fear takes the wheel, you're on a crash course, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, yeah, that's very true. Okay. So, one of the things, and this segues into our next section beautifully, boundary setting can be uncomfortable. And you get a lot of pushback from yourself and from some of the people who may have been taking advantage of some soft boundaries. And I think that self love can feel like that as well. It can feel uncomfortable, especially if you've had, trauma or any kind of negative experiences in your life, or if, well, for example, the our culture makes billions of dollars off of you not liking yourself, between the
Right?
diet and fitness industry, between plastic surgery, short form media, TikTok scrolling and stuff like that. Our society makes money on you not liking yourself. So if you start developing that innate unshakable sense of love for yourself, other people may not be able to take advantage and may not be able to make you feel less than. Your boundaries are sharp. You know exactly what you're worth. And it's easy to say no to things that aren't going to fit for you anymore. And so, if that feels wrong, that means you're probably on the right path. Does that feel correct?
Oh yeah. You know, self-love, when you start practicing that, it makes your fears scream even louder. It's very uncomfortable. You can feel guilty, like you're choosing yourself above all else, but
Mm,
that's that's even where you have to remember, like if you're on an airplane and God forbid something happens, those masks drop, the directions are put your mask on first and then tend to the others because you're of no help if you pass out from lack of oxygen.
right.
So it's
Yeah.
it's it's the same concept. Or I love metaphors and catchphrases, and it's you have to think about that phrase. We're always told, fill your cup, fill your cup. Well, what does that mean? Well, fill your cup is what's in your cup is yours, and what overflows is for others, number
For
one.
others.
And number two, think about what are you full of? If you're full of fear, anger, pain, and something rattles you, what's going to fall out naturally? It's going to be these things. So what are you filling
Hmm.
yourself up with? So if you get jarred, if you get bumped, what pours out?
Beautiful. So if you're filled with joy and love and kindness for yourself, that's what spills out and pours over to other people as well.
Absolutely.
Beautifully stated. I love that. Very well said. Okay, so let's get very real and let's talk about what we can actually do to build those bricks.
Oh, absolutely. Chloe stated a great one. I am with her on this, and it's really paying attention to not just the words you speak out loud, but the words that you're speaking to yourself about yourself.
Hmm.
That language that we use is important. It's even part of the four agreements. Be impeccable with your word. And
Such a great book.
right? And so many of us internally will be so critical, can be so unkind to ourselves. I mean, I'll walk into the kitchen intending to do one thing and I'll get distracted, go back upstairs and I'll go, "Oh, I didn't grab my coffee. God, you're so stupid." No, I'm not. I'll reframe it. I am not grounded. I'm not in the moment. I am distracted, whatever reframing that I need to not be so negative, because I wouldn't speak to my family that way. If they came back downstairs, could you believe I forgot my coffee? I'm not going to say because you're stupid, but
Right.
I'm so okay with speaking to myself that way. Absolutely not. That's where it starts. Let's start with the dialogue that we have with ourselves. If we wouldn't speak to our loved ones the same way, why are we not speaking to ourselves like someone we love?
Beautiful. Great start. Okay. Let's see here. For a second tool, I think it's worth it to notice your cues and those things that we might be doing as a band aid when we are abandoning ourselves, abandoning our boundaries, or overstimulated at our capacity. Numbing out, scrolling, going for something that we shouldn't be going for, like a drink on a Monday night if we have just been completely blown open. Different things like that. What do you think?
Oh yeah, no, that's fair. And it's, practicing a little pause.
Mm.
Does
Mm-hmm.
this serve me? Taking a moment of maybe we don't think about our 80-year-old self. How about you mentioned Monday? How about our Tuesday self?
Yes.
How's my tomorrow me gonna feel about doom scrolling till 1 o'clock in the morning? Or I even had a moment last night where I was kind of having the midnight snackies and I thought, you know what, just that's no, I'm gonna really regret that decision tomorrow. I'm gonna go to bed now. And breaking it down into very small, loving choices about just what's the most next correct move I can make to love myself a little bit better.
I love that. I love that. And in my case, on the Monday night thing, reaching out to my people and saying, hey, I'm feeling super triggered by this. My first reaction was, I want to drink. And I got called out. And my people said, I don't think that's going to solve the problem or make you feel better about it. And it made a huge difference. It helped.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely did better with not going into the kitchen and eating whatever I can find for an hour.
So you did not turn into the feral raccoon that you wanted to be.
No, I wanted to, but guess what? Today I woke up without regrets and grateful that I got a little more sleep.
Yes. Excellent. I love that.
Small
Now, the
loving
next
choices.
tool that we're going to go over, you spoke about this beautiful Hawaiian prayer that starts simple and can expand very personally and very deeply. I'm going to have you go over that with a little more depth because it is a very powerful tool.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And I really should not be the one speaking on this fully, but let's introduce it to everybody and do some digging in. And it's it's a traditional Hawaiian practice or prayer. It's meant to restore harmony and balance within yourself and in your relationships with others. It's called the Ho'oponopono prayer. And I'm so grateful a friend reminded me of this several years ago, and it's been part of my practice ever since. And it's so simple. You just take a moment and you say, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.
Hmm.
And you repeat it. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And just keep going. Sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes your mind will start to wander and you'll say, I'm sorry for not being wiser at that time or for not making different choices. I'm so sorry for not taking better care of myself. Please forgive me for not knowing better. And you just start filling it in and expanding,
Expanding it. Yes.
and it's a practice. It can feel uncomfortable in the beginning, but most things are uncomfortable in the beginning. Nobody starts off as an expert. Just start.
Yeah. And that's true for all of these tools. Just start. You don't have to do every single one of them every day. Start by listening more to the voice inside of your head and reframing. Start by repeating the Hawaiian prayer one time today and see if you can get a little bit closer to that self love arc. And start by noticing if you're doing something to self soothe. That could indicate that you're not being true to yourself, or perhaps you're not listening to the nervous system that's trying to tell you that something's not quite right. Oftentimes, our nervous system knows before we do if something is not in alignment with your true self. So, those are some tools that you can use on a regular basis to try and build those bricks of self love if it didn't come quite as naturally for you as it may for some other people. Or perhaps it does come pretty naturally and you just want to strengthen it and enforce it a little more on some of your quiet whisper days. Nige, thank you so much. This was a pleasure. It was wonderful. And I think one of the main takeaways is that you're fine and it's going to be okay. And don't blame yourself and don't take on any shame or responsibility for what happened to you, but do take responsibility for the next steps that you take along that self love journey. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I agree. I hope that, anyone that's listening, I hope that you just start do a little better with that self-love. And what I hope you carry through this year is just choose one small act of love for yourself every day. That's it.
Hmm. That's beautiful. And that is a great way to start the new year, for sure. And hopefully last beyond, the second February, that
Right?
that kind of fall off thing. Like usually by the last of January, the first of February, those kind of things fall off. But this is a little itty bitty self-care, self-love practice that I hope folks will stick with.
Yes. And thank you so much for having me today.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Alrighty, folks, remember progress is not about starting over. It's about building something that holds strong when life gets messy. And that's softcore detachment. Thanks so much for joining me today, and we will see you next week.
Thought that I would be a bit at peace by now. Yeah, you're lying in the shadows of my room. Oh, always heard your voice, I forget the sound now. You're awfully quiet.